You just said somebody won't be, and you said it won't be wrong if somebody worked on the Sabbath.
Okay.
However, the Old Testament law goes against that.
Okay, because we're not under. Listen, brother, can I speak? We're not justified by that. Putting away of death. Remember, Christ came to take away the letter of the law. That's putting away by death. He said that we can do good on the Sabbath. Or if I'm going to lose my job, I'm doing well on the Sabbath. But does that mean I can go out and take my money and go shopping?
Situational ethics.
Where it really got intense. At this particular point, I was hoping that they can give me the floor so that I can present my point, but instead it became a matter of over talking, not let me speak. It was my turn to speak. They will over talk me and they would twist what I was saying and try to say I'm putting my foot in my mouth. Now, if you notice, I said that we're not judged by the letter. We're not justified by the letter. That's what I said. And they tried to twist it saying, well, you said we're not justified by the Sabbath, etc. So they're like sort of twisting what I'm saying. And again, I dropped off because I'm getting frustrated. Like, especially when he asked me, why keep it if we're not justified by it, etc. So it's like they're twisting what I'm saying. Okay, so first, let's understand what the letter is. And then she's going to say situational ethics and doing all that like a demon. Whereas if me and her were supposed to be talking about the old law and how it pertains to Christ, but instead she brought them, they double teamed me, etc. Wouldn't let me get a word in. So I want to get into the situational ethics, because if you're saying that I'm doing situational ethics, you're doing saying the same thing about Christ. Now, let's understand one thing. Let's understand what the letter is. So it says in 2 Corinthians, who has made us able ministers of the New Testament, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. So we don't dwell in the letter no more. We dwell in the Spirit of God, and the law is spiritual. And when he says laws, he means the commandments, because he says the righteousness of the law. Okay. For the letter killeth. But the Spirit giveth life. Okay. So the letter kills. What was the letter? Following the law to the letter. You sin, you die. When you read the book of Romans, it said that Christ came to give us remission for sins that are past. You understand? So certain sins that you committed, according to the letter, you cannot be forgiven. You see what I'm saying? Like, for example, homosexuality, murder, incest, etc., adultery. But Christ came to give us life. You understand? Those that dwelt in darkness, he came to give us life. Romans 7:6 says, but now we are delivered from the law. Okay. Now notice in Romans, all throughout the Bible, he tells us to keep the law. Romans 2, all throughout the Bible, he said the law is holy, but he delivered us from the law. Now here he's saying we are delivered from the law. What law? That being dead wherein we were held. The law of the letter. So meaning if you committed certain sins, you were just as good as dead. But Christ came to deliver from that. Now watch this, that we should serve in newness of spirit and not the oldness of the letter. So we should serve in newness of spirit. Remember, the Spirit gives life, but the letter killeth. That was the sacrificial law. Remember, in Colossians, it says he blotted out the handwritings of the ordinances that was against us and contrary to us, and took it out the way by nailing it to the cross. In other words, by being put to death for us. That way we can be forgiven and come back and serve. All right, look at here. And Moses, this comes out of Joshua. And Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded the children of Israel, as it is written in the book of the law, Moses, an altar of whole stone, over which no man had lifted up any iron, and they offered thereof burnt offerings unto the Lord, and sacrificed peace offerings, and wrote thereupon the stone a copy of the law of Moses. Okay, so the writings was the letter, okay, according to the law of sacrifice. So if you broke the Sabbath, you had to die back in the Old Testament when we were under the old law. So the new law is we're under Christ. Now that we have that, what I was trying to say, but they kept twisting it. Now let's understand when she said situational ethics, when I said if I have to work on the Sabbath, I'm going to work. Let me help you understand that. Now, this is the letter. This is Moses' law. You shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defile it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever doeth any work thereon, that soul shall be cut off from among the people. So that's the letter. You break the Sabbath, you die. Okay, now that's the letter. Now she's talking about situational ethics. Let's see what Christ has to say about it. Because remember, Christ is implementing a new system. Before I do that, let's get some more laws. This comes out of Isaiah. Neither carry forth burden out of your house on the Sabbath, neither do any work, but hallow ye Sabbath. And I command your as I commanded your fathers. Again, this is the letter, following it to the T. And if you break it, you put to death, right? So we couldn't do any work or we get put to death. Now look, in the book of John, Jesus said unto him, rise, take thy bed and walk. And immediately the man was made whole, and he took his bed and walked. And on the same day was the Sabbath. So this was the Sabbath. The Jews therefore said unto him that was cured, it is a Sabbath day. Is it lawful for thee to carry thy bed? Because remember, we just read you cannot carry a burden. And he answered, he that made me whole, the same said unto me, take up thy bed and walk. Then asked they him, what man is that which said unto thee, take up thy bed and walk? But etc. I'm not going to go into that. So this is a situation where it's necessary that a man carry a burden because he was healed on a Sabbath. All right. So in the book of Matthew, when he said, if your sheep falls in a hole on a Sabbath day, you will work to get him out. He said, how much better is a man than a sheep? Wherefore it is lawful to do well on the Sabbath. Notice he did not say you don't have to keep it. You can do well. Well means moral. Remember, he taken us away from the letter. And we already explained what the letter was. So right quick, when it said he is the Lord of the Sabbath, that means he governs the Sabbath. He had the right to say that we can do well on the Sabbath. He had the right to say we can get our sheep out of the hole just as well as carry the burden on the Sabbath after he healed a man because he governs the Sabbath. That's what that meant. And the Sabbath was made for man that we can have rest in it. So Christ said, then said Jesus unto them, I will ask you one thing. Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil, to save lives or destroy it? Remember, he's the Lord of the Sabbath. He has the right to govern it and furnish it the way he chooses. So when it comes to the word well, what that mean? Morally, in a good place, honest, recover full well. So if I work on a Sabbath, if it's a Sabbath day and I have to work, then I'm doing well. I'm still doing well. But when I get off and it's the Sabbath day, we're still observing the Sabbath. That's what Christ was saying. And that's what I was saying. We're not judged according to the letter. That's what I was saying. So keeping the Sabbath is just keeping the Sabbath. You are justified if you keep the Sabbath. You know, if you keep the Sabbath, you're good. If you have to work on the Sabbath, you can work. You can do good on the Sabbath. But when you get off, did that mean, and the Sabbath is still here, did that mean you can go shop for jewelry or go to the club and etc.? No, because we're still observing the Sabbath. Christ just took us out of the letter. Following it to the letter, you break it, you put to death. No matter how hungry you is, you can't do nothing on the Sabbath. No, Christ took us away from that. And notice, he never said we're not under the Sabbath. We can do well and moral on the Sabbath. This is why I wanted time for me to explain it, but instead they were cutting me off and twisting what I was saying. Now, if they ask me, can I do overtime? I would say no, because I have to observe the Sabbath. Like I said, when I helped the dude who had his kids out there on a Sabbath day, did I break the Sabbath? Of course, but I did well on the Sabbath. I was able to do good and moral. So according to Christ, I didn't. According to the letter, I did. But we're not judged according to the letter anymore. That's what I was trying to say.